if we haven't prepared for that by the time that comes, and if we haven't gone to the stars and traveled to another galaxy, everything that's been accomplished will be burned away and remembered only by spirits, not by physical forms. As they said in one excerpt from the television series Babylon 5, that when that goes out, if we haven't traveled to the stars, the death of our own sun will result in the death of every philosophical and literary and musical and scientific mind in human history. It will be the end of Lao Tzu and Einstein and Beethoven and Edison and countless other humanitarians and inventors and scientists and theologians and philosophers. It'll be the end of everything that we possess if we haven't found a way to take all that we've accomplished and all the wisdom we've collected and to take it with us and expand out into the universe. But that's a whole nother discussion, and one that for the present time is mostly in our imaginations, but it's a foundation for the future we can lay if we have the perspective to see that time may just go on and on and on and on and on. Certain theological perspectives believe that at some point the earth will end, and it will not be with the death of the sun. It will be because humans blew it up or something. I suppose that's all possible. Until it happens, though, that's not what I'm going to plan for. I'm encouraging a world in which there is love and in which there is wisdom, because I know that we can do better than that. But if we don't see it, if we don't have the perspective to see it, I suppose one could ask, in the question of perspective, what perspective do I need to understand this person in front of me? What perspective do I need to begin to learn their language and to understand that their language is not just the words they use and the sentence structure, but that their language is the way they see the world, the way they understand things, the way ideas are hooked together and relate to each other. The unstated assumption, every language has unstated assumptions. And there's a perspective within that language that, because it looks at life and looks at the world around it in a certain way, begins to select words and order sentences to reflect that understanding. And this all comes into the question of perspective. In the introduction to the show, the perspective question word comes with me reaching my hand towards some honeybees on, I believe it was some Russian sage bushes, if I remember correctly. They were busy doing their work, totally oblivious to my existence at all. And here I am, this big creature who has the ability to terminate their life in a second by clapping my hands together over them. Or if I threaten them in some way and they get to me first, they could sting me and I would be in pain for a certain amount of time. And my perspective in being there was to enjoy the beauty of the appearance and the smell of these flowers that they were working on. For them, it's simply a food source. It's a different perspective, and the plant was simultaneously satisfying both perspectives, providing a food source for them and a beautiful appearance for me. And they're both equally true. So, truth is multidimensional, perspective is multidimensional, each of us is multidimensional, and life is multidimensional. But that doesn't need to be an exhausting kind of too much awareness, I can't comprehend it all. Rather, it's an abundance of opportunities, that there is something wonderful to discover within each moment, and it can be a different thing every time. You don't have to encompass it all in one viewing. In the same way, when you meet a new person, you don't have to encompass everything within the first conversation, but you do need to end every conversation with some kind of openness to the conversation continuing. And part of that, to me, is allowing their perspective to be every bit as true as mine. Allowing the perspective of the honeybee that this plant is a food source to be every bit as true, and not to attempt to prove them wrong because I'm right, yeah, right. I have a perspective, and my perspective is true. they have a perspective, and their perspective is true, and ours aren't the same. And that doesn't make either one of ours less true. In order to be friends, in order to continue the conversation, in order to continue positive relationship, I have to allow their perspective to be their perspective and to be true from their viewing and experience of life. And they have to do the same for me. I'm not trying to convince them that I'm right, and they're not trying to convince me that they're right. We're each experiencing and embracing life in our own unique perspective, in our own unique way, taking the opportunities we find, that they found a new food source, and they were very happy to find a new food source. And I was very happy to find something beautiful to look at, and to consider for a moment the difference in scale, and how small they are, and how large I am, and how, in comparison to other animals and forces in the universe, I am as small as the bee in comparison to those larger forces. And my footprint on the planet is so tiny as to be invisible to someone viewing the planet from outer space. Perspective. There's a lot more than just meets the eye. I hope this has been a helpful half hour for you. Thank you for sharing this time with me.